The collision course is set. He doesn't know it yet, but Pastor Samuel Adeyemi has just weeks before the woman he destroyed comes back to destroy. What happens when sacred vows crumble into ash, and a woman scorned discovers the ultimate weapon. This is the true story of Pastor Samuel Adeyemi, a man worshipped by thousands, feared by none, who met Amara Okoye, a discarded lover with a devastating secret and nothing left to lose. Pastor Samuel Adeyemi stands bathed in camera lights and congregational adoration, his voice thundering promises of divine favor from the marble pulpit of Victory Tabernacle. To the world, he is untouchable, God's anointed vessel. But in the shadows of the choir loft, one woman knows the truth behind his immaculate robes, the late-night whispers, the empty promises, the years she sacrificed as his hidden obsession. Amara Okoye watches him announce his engagement to a woman whose wealth could build cathedrals, her hands gripping the railing until her knuckles pale. For 5 years, she believed his lies. She played the devoted secret, the woman who asked for nothing while he took everything. Now, as applause echoes through the sanctuary, something inside her calcifies into ice. Then comes the diagnosis that changes everything, not a death sentence, but an opportunity. A way to make him feel precisely what he made her feel, disposable, ruined, and marked forever. Him in return. Amara stands in the doorway of the apartment that was never truly hers, watching 2 church deacons load her belongings into cardboard boxes with surgical efficiency. They work in silence, eyes averted, as if proximity to her might contaminate their righteousness. She remembers when Samuel gave her the keys 3 years ago, his fingers lingering on her wrist. "You deserve better than that cramped flat in Surrey," he'd whispered, his cologne expensive, his promise cheaper. The lease bore the church's name, not hers. She should have understood then, everything he touched, he owned. Everything he owned, he could reclaim. The younger deacon hesitates at her bedside table, then quickly stuffs a framed photo face down into the box. Amara knows which one, her and Samuel at a private beach resort in Calabar, his arm around her waist, her smile radiant with the belief that secret love could somehow bloom into public devotion. She'd deleted 100 photos to keep that one. Now it would be destroyed before sundown, evidence erased like she never existed. "Pastor Samuel asked us to remind you about the non-disclosure agreement you signed," the older deacon says without looking at her, his voice flat with rehearsed indifference. She'd signed it in his office, giddy with the illusion of importance. "Protection for both of us," he'd said. But protection only worked one way. 5 years of her life, reduced to boxes and silence. 5 years of cancelled plans when he needed her available, of holidays spent alone while he posed for family photos with his saintly mother, of watching him lay hands on sobbing women from the pulpit while his text burned her phone at midnight. She knew which offshore accounts held his tithes. She knew about the land deals blessed with forged permits. She knew the real reason the youth pastor resigned. She knew everything. And it had bought her nothing but this, 2 strangers packing her life while the man she destroyed herself for prepared to marry money wrapped in designer lace. The door clicks shut behind them. Amara stands in the empty apartment, sunlight slicing through bare windows, and feels something settle in her chest. Not grief. Not anymore. Clarity. The clinic in Ikeja smells of antiseptic and fear. Amara sits in the consultation room, her palms damp against the plastic chair, watching Dr. Nwosu's face as he reviews her test results. His expression is carefully neutral, the kind of studied blankness medical professionals perfect when delivering devastation. "Miss Okoye, your results show." The words blur into clinical terminology, but 3 letters cut through the fog with surgical precision. HIV. Positive. She hears her own breathing, shallow and distant, as if her body has already begun separating from itself. "How long have I?" her voice cracks. Difficult to say precisely. Perhaps 6 months, perhaps longer. The viral load suggests it's been progressing untreated. He slides a pamphlet across the desk, its pastel colors obscene in their cheerfulness. "With proper medication and care, you can live a long, healthy life. This is not a death sentence anymore. But it is a life sentence. A permanent mark. A scarlet letter written in her bloodstream. She thinks of Samuel's hands on her skin, his breath in her ear, his reassurances that they were exclusive, that she was special. How many others had there been? How long had he known? Dr. Nwosu is still speaking, listing treatment options and support groups, but Amara's mind has traveled elsewhere. She sees Samuel on that pulpit, radiant and untouchable, announcing his future while her own collapsed into something unrecognizable. She sees his fiancée's diamond glittering under sanctuary lights, purchased with tithes from widows and desperate believers. When can I? She stops, recalibrates. How contagious am I? The doctor's brow furrows slightly. With proper precautions and disclosure to partners, transmission can be prevented. However, legally and ethically, you're required to inform. Of course, she says, her voice suddenly steady. She lives with prescriptions she won't fill yet and pamphlets she'll burn later. Outside, Lagos traffic roars past in its usual chaos, but Amara stands perfectly still on the sidewalk, her phone in her hand. Samuel's last text sits unanswered from 2 weeks ago. Please don't make this difficult. Move on with dignity. Her fingers hover over the keyboard, then stop. Words are inadequate now. What she needs is not a conversation. What she needs is a reckoning. Amara's laptop screen glows in the darkness of her new studio apartment in Yoba, cheaper and smaller, walls thin enough to hear her neighbor's television through the concrete. She's been reading for hours, clicking through medical journals and forum threads, her eyes burning but her focus absolute. The disease is not what she thought. Not the death sentence of old Nollywood movies and whispered church gossip. It's something else entirely, a chronic condition, manageable, even invisible with treatment. But untreated, left to fester in someone who doesn't know, who continues their life unaware. She reads about the window period. The months when someone newly infected remains highly contagious but tests negative, spreading it unknowingly. She reads about opportunistic infections, about the slow erosion of immunity, about how a man of Samuel's age and lifestyle, stress, travel, the arrogance of assumed invincibility, might ignore symptoms until collapse becomes inevitable. Most importantly, she reads about stigma. How in Nigeria, even now, a diagnosis destroys reputations overnight. How pastors afflicted lose their pulpits, their authority, their congregations. How the faithful recoil in righteous horror, convinced that such sickness is evidence of hidden sin. Samuel built his empire on an image of purity, divine selection, untouchable holiness. What would Victory Tabernacle do with a pastor whose body betrayed such mortal, shameful weakness? She finds a thread from a pastor's wife in Abuja, anonymous and desperate. They abandoned us. 20 years of ministry, gone in a week. He's not even sick yet, just positive, but they treat him like a leper. Like God's judgment made visible. Amara closes the laptop and sits in the blue darkness, feeling something settle into place like a key turning in a lock. Samuel took 5 years of her life and discarded her like trash. He gave her this disease, she's certain now, tracing back the timeline, and moved on without a backward glance. He would marry his heiress, expand his ministry, live in glory while Amara withered in obscurity, marked and alone. Unless he carried the same mark. Unless his temple crumbled from within. Unless the man who played God discovered he was devastatingly, irreversibly human. She opens her phone and begins typing a message, her thumb steady, her heart a cold, mechanical thing. Samuel. I need to see you one last time. Please. I promise, no drama, no sins. Just closure. I deserve that much. She adds, I'm leaving Lagos soon. This is goodbye. The light tastes like medicine. Bitter, but necessary. His reply comes 3 days later, curt and cautious. Where? Amara waits another day before responding, letting him marinate in the silence, letting him wonder if she'll create problems. Men like Samuel fear inconvenience more than guilt. Somewhere private. I don't want to cause trouble for you. I just need to say goodbye properly. She adds a detail she knows will soothe his ego. You were right. I need to move on. But I can't do that with things ending like this. The ellipsis appears, disappears, appears again. She can almost see him weighing the risk, calculating whether her compliance is genuine or performance. Finally, the guest house in Lekki. Saturday, 8 p.m. 1 hour only. The guest house. Of course. The same location where he'd celebrated her birthday 2 years ago with champagne and promises, where he'd whispered that she was his peace, his sanctuary from the demands of ministry. The same walls that had witnessed her devotion would now witness something else entirely. Thank you, Samuel. I promise to respect your time. She closes the message thread and studies her reflection in the cracked bathroom mirror. The woman staring back looks thinner, older, but her eyes hold something new, a clarity that borders on serenity. She practices her expression, soft, melancholic, resigned. The defeated lover accepting her fate with grace. Over the next 2 days, she rehearses the role. She buys a simple dress, cream-colored and modest, nothing provocative. She gets her hair done at a salon in Suralaya, listening to the stylist gossip about Victory Tabernacle's upcoming wedding ceremony, how Pastor Samuel's bride-to-be arrived from London with 6 suitcases of designer clothes. That's how you know it's real love, the stylist sighs, weaving Amara's braids. When a man chooses you publicly. Amara smiles into the mirror, her face a mask of gentle agreement. Saturday arrives heavy with humidity, the kind of heat that makes Lagos feel like it's holding its breath. Amara dresses carefully, deliberately, applying minimal makeup to appear vulnerable rather than seductive. She rehearses her lines one final time, words designed to disarm, I'm not here to fight. I just needed to see you, to understand, to find closure. Her phone buzzes with his message, I'm here. She picks up her purse, checks her reflection one last time, and steps into the evening. The performance of a lifetime begins now. The guest house sits behind high walls in Lekki Phase 1, discreet and expensive, the kind of place powerful men use for meetings that can't appear on calendars. Samuel's Mercedes is parked in the shadows, driver dismissed for the evening. He opens the door before she knocks, still wearing his Saturday service attire, tailored navy suit, gold cufflinks catching lamplight. He looks older up close, stress etching lines around his mouth that television cameras don't capture. But his eyes hold the same calculation they always did, assessing her for threat level. Amara. Not warm, not cold. Transactional. Thank you for seeing me. She keeps her voice soft, stepping inside. The room smells of leather and expensive air freshening, impersonal as a hotel. I know how busy you are. He closes the door, maintains his distance. You said you needed closure. So let's close this properly. I've arranged the settlement. I don't want your money, Samuel. The statement surprises him. She sees it flicker across his face before the mask returns. Then what? She moves closer, her movement slow, deliberate. I spent 5 years loving you. I just need to understand why I wasn't enough. Amara, we've discussed this. Impatience creeps into his tone. My ministry requires certain alignments. Blessing comes through strategic partnerships. You know this. Strategic partnerships. She repeats the phrase like she's tasting poison. Is that what you call your fiancé? Don't be bitter. It's beneath you. He loosens his tie, a gesture of dismissal, already mentally leaving. You knew what this was. But she's standing close now, close enough to see his pupils dilate despite his affected disinterest. 5 years taught her his weaknesses, the ego that needs worship, the flesh that craves what it shouldn't have. One last time, she whispers, her hand finding his chest. Let me say goodbye properly. He should refuse. He should recognize the danger in her stillness, the strange calm that radiates from her like fever. But Samuel has always believed himself untouchable, protected by God's favor and his own cleverness. He mistakes her surrender for weakness. His hands find her waist, familiar and entitled. Just this once. Then you move on. Understood. Understood, she breathes against his neck, feeling his pulse quicken. What follows is mechanical on her part, passionate on his, a reversal of their entire history. She lets him believe he's conquering, lets him think she's breaking. Every touch is calculated, every movement designed to ensure the transfer is complete. When it's over, he dresses quickly, eager to escape. Amara dresses slowly, deliberately, while Samuel checks his phone by the window, already mentally returned to his other life. She smooths her cream dress, collects her purse, and watches him scroll through messages, probably from his fiancée, probably about wedding arrangements. I have my driver take you wherever you need to go, he says without looking up, the generosity of a man eager to close a transaction cleanly. That won't be necessary. She moves to the door, then pauses, reaching into her purse. I almost forgot. I brought you something. He glances up, suspicious now. Amara, I told you. It's nothing expensive. Just something to remember me by. She places a small white envelope on the table near the door. Plain, unsealed, innocent. He stares at it like it might detonate. What is it? Open it when you're alone, she says, her voice carrying a strange gentleness. It's just words. That's all I have left to give you. She sees the calculation in his eyes, whether to demand she open it now, whether this is some kind of trap. But his phone buzzes insistently, his fiancée's name lighting up the screen, and his attention splinters. Fine. Whatever helps you move on. He waves dismissively. Goodbye, Amara. I hope you find peace. Oh, I will, she says, and something in her tone makes him look up sharply. But she's already smiling, sad and resigned, the picture of feminine defeat. She opens the door, letting in the humid Lagos night, and turns back one final time. Samuel. That scripture you preached last Sunday, about reaping what you sow. I've been thinking about that a lot lately. Before he can respond, she's gone, her footsteps disappearing into the darkness beyond the gate. Samuel stands alone in the guest house, his phone still buzzing, the white envelope sitting on the table like a question mark. He should throw it away unopened. Instead, his fingers find it, sliding out a single card with 3 words written in Amara's careful handwriting. The wages due. Below it, a Bible reference, Romans 6 verse 23. He frowns, uneasy now, the cryptic message settling into his chest like a stone. But his fiancée is calling again, and he has a morning service to prepare for, and Amara is finally, blessedly, out of his life. He tosses the card in the waste bin and leaves, locking the door behind him. 3 months later, the first symptoms appear. Samuel first notices the fatigue during a Wednesday night service in late November. Mid-sermon, his vision swims, the congregation's upturned faces blurring into a sea of expectant flesh. He grips the pulpit, recovers, blames the punishing schedule, 3 services weekly, a building campaign, wedding preparations consuming his evenings. But the exhaustion persists. Then come the night sweats, drenching his Egyptian cotton sheets until his fiancée, Chisholm, wakes beside him with concern creasing her flawless face. You're working too hard, baby, she murmurs, her hand cool against his fevered forehead. Maybe we should postpone the crusade in December. Impossible, he snaps, harsher than intended. We've already sold 10,000 tickets. He visits a private clinic in Victoria Island, demanding discretion. The doctor runs tests, malaria, typhoid, the usual Lagos suspects. Everything returns negative. Probably stress-related, the doctor concludes, prescribing vitamins and rest Samuel won't take. By mid-December, the symptoms multiply. A persistent cough that rattles his chest during altar calls. Sudden weight loss that makes his tailored suits hang loose. Mouth sores that make eating agony, though he hides this behind claims of fasting for spiritual breakthrough. Chisholm watches him with growing unease. Samuel, you look different. Drawn. Please, see a specialist. I'm fine, he insists, but he started avoiding mirrors, avoiding her questions, avoiding the creeping certainty that something fundamental has shifted in his body. He thinks of Amara sometimes, late at night when sleep won't come. That last encounter, her strange calmness, the cryptic card he'd thrown away without fully reading the scripture. He retrieves it from memory now, for the wages of sin is death. Paranoia blooms like infection. Had she done something? Poisoned him somehow? But that's impossible. Months have passed, and poison works quickly. This is something else, something slow and insidious, eating him from within. His assistant notices his hands trembling during a televised broadcast. His mother, visiting from Ibadan, asks why he stopped attending family dinners. Chisholm finds him one night sitting in the dark of their master bedroom, staring at nothing, and when she touches his shoulder he flinches like he's been struck. Talk to me, she pleads. What's happening to you? But he can't explain what he doesn't yet understand, that his tempo is crumbling, that something irreversible has taken root, that the man Lagos worships is slowly becoming a stranger even to himself. The Divine Healing Crusade fills Tafoe Bewa Square on a scorching January afternoon, 15,000 believers packed beneath white canopy tents, cameras positioned to broadcast across 3 continents. Samuel stands backstage in his white ceremonial robe, makeup applied thick to hide the hollows beneath his eyes, while his assistant prays over him in frantic whispers. You can do this, Pastor. God will give you strength. But Samuel feels no strength, only the relentless exhaustion that's become his constant companion and something new, a tremor in his legs, a lightness in his head that suggests the ground isn't quite solid. The worship leader's voice booms through speakers. Put your hands together for the man of God, Pastor Samuel Adeyemi. The roar is deafening. Samuel steps into blinding stage lights, raises his arms in triumphant praise, and the crowd erupts. For a moment, the energy sustains him. This is who he is, anointed, powerful, untouchable. Somebody shout hallelujah. His voice carries, still strong despite everything. The healing segment begins. A paralyzed woman is wheeled forward. Samuel lays hands on her shoulders, feeling his own body swaying, fighting to remain upright. He prays with manufactured fervor, words he's spoken 1,000 times, while his vision narrows to a tunnel. The woman stands. The crowd screams. Cameras zoom close on Samuel's face, and capture the moment his eyes roll back. He doesn't remember falling. Only the sudden cold of the stage floor, the forest of legs surrounding him, voices shouting for doctors, for water, for Jesus. Someone loosens his collar. His assistant's face appears above him, pale with terror. Get him out of here. Cut the cameras. But it's too late. The broadcast continues for 3 more seconds, long enough for all of Lagos, all of Nigeria, all of the believing world to watch Pastor Samuel Adeyemi convulse on the altar, foam speckling his lips, his white robe twisted around his failing body. By evening, the video has gone viral. Pastor Samuel collapse trends across Twitter. WhatsApp groups explode with speculation, exhaustion, spiritual attack, divine judgment. The church's official statement, Pastor is resting and recovering well, convinces no one. At St. Nicholas Hospital in Lagos Island, doctors run tests Samuel has been avoiding for months. Blood work. Viral panels. The kind that reveal what cannot be hidden anymore. In her Yoba apartment, Amara watches the footage on her phone, the collapse replayed in slow motion, and feels nothing at all. Samuel wakes in the private hospital suite to the sound of hushed voices beyond his door, church elders, he recognizes their tones, debating damage control strategies. And 4 drips clear fluid into his arm. His body feels like it belongs to someone else, distant and uncooperative. Dr. Okoro enters alone, closing the door with deliberate care. The expression on his face carries the weight of irrevocable news. Pastor Adeyemi, your test results require immediate discussion. He sits, placing a folder on the bedside table. You've tested positive for HIV. Based on your viral load and CD4 count, I estimate you've been infected for approximately 4 to 6 months, possibly longer. The words land like physical blows. Samuel's mouth opens, closes. That's impossible. There must be a mistake. Run the test again. We ran them twice. I'm sorry. The room tilts. Samuel's mind races through possibilities, denials, explanations that make sense. Chisholm. No, they'd been careful, waiting for marriage like he'd publicly preached. Then who? How? His phone, charging on the side table, buzzes with an incoming message. Unknown number. His hands shake as he reaches for it, some instinct warning him even before he opens it. The image loads slowly, a medical document, faded but legible. Patient name, Amara Okoye. Test date, 6 months ago. Diagnosis, HIV positive. Below it, a single line of text, the wages due. Romans 6 verse 23. The same phrase from the card. The same scripture. Understanding crashes over him like ice water, and with it comes a horror so complete his chest constricts. That night in Lekki. Her strange calmness. Her insistence on one last time. The way she'd watched him afterward with eyes that held no tears, only something cold and final. She knew. She'd known all along. And she'd deliberately. His phone slips from his fingers. A sound emerges from his throat, animal and broken, bringing nurses rushing in. But he can't explain, can't speak, can only see Amara's face that final night, the small smile she'd worn as she said goodbye. Not goodbye. Sentencing. Pastor, please come down. Get out, he whispers, then screams it, get out. They leave him alone with his revelation. Alone with the knowledge that the woman he discarded had found a way to discard him far more permanently. That the temple he'd built on lies and vanity now houses something that will slowly, inevitably, tear it all down from within. Outside his door, the elders continue their debate, unaware that their crisis has only just begun. The resignation announcement comes 3 weeks later, wrapped in the language of divine calling and new seasons. Pastor Samuel Adeyemi is stepping down to focus on his health and family, the statement reads, sterile and final. Victory Tabernacle's board has already installed his successor, a younger pastor with an unblemished reputation and a wife who photographs well. Amara reads the news on her phone from a buka in Yoruba, lukewarm jollof rice congealing on her plate. She should feel triumph. Instead, there's only a hollow ache where satisfaction should live. Her phone rings. A number she hasn't seen in 2 years, her mother. Amara, have you heard about Ruth? Her mother's voice cracks with something between rage and grief. Ruth. Her younger sister. The one who'd stopped speaking to Amara after some petty argument about borrowed money, who'd moved to Abuja and disappeared into her own life. What about her? She's sick. Very sick. The doctors say. Her mother can't finish the sentence, but she doesn't need to. Amara already knows the shape of this horror. How? The word scrapes out of her throat. She was seeing someone. A pastor from Lagos, she said. He promised to marry her too, but then he abandoned her for some rich woman. Amara, she's positive. My baby is. The phone slips. Amara's vision tunnels. Ruth. Her sister. Samuel had been with Ruth too, sometime in those final months before the engagement, spreading his poison while Amara believed herself his only secret. "Mama, I have to go." "Wait, there's more." Ruth was dating someone new, trying to move on. A good boy from a good family. She didn't know yet, didn't get tested until she collapsed last week. Now they are saying the boy might be. Amara ends the call, her hands trembling so violently she can barely hold the phone. The chain reaction she'd set in motion spreads before her like a map of devastation. Samuel had infected Ruth. Ruth had unknowingly infected someone innocent. And it all traced back to that night in Lekki, to Amara's calculated vengeance. She'd wanted to destroy Samuel. She'd succeeded. But in doing so, she'd destroyed her own sister, destroyed strangers who'd committed no sin except loving the wrong people. The monster she'd sought to punish had merely been a mirror. Amara stands, leaves money on the table, and walks into Lagos traffic. Around her, the city churns with its usual chaos, hawkers shouting, downfalls honking, life continuing oblivious. But she moves through it like a ghost, untethered from everything except the knowledge that her revenge has devoured not just her enemy, but everyone she should have protected. There is no satisfaction. Only wreckage. Only the bitter understanding that in seeking justice, she became the very evil she despised. When revenge becomes poison, who truly pays the price? Share, like and subscribe. See you in my next video.